All right, so I need us to confirm you can see my screen and you can hear me clearly.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So
Yeah.
we'll start by talking about the risk management components. We'll talk about the risk management, money management component first. So I remember when we were discussing on Monday, I made mention of the fact that for some of us, our strategy already works, but we'll probably need to tweak our approach to risk management or money management um, to enable us succeed at prop trading, specifically passing the challenges and the verification. And I think that was one of the most requested topics in the group. So I just took out time to think about it. Okay, that what are the main things that one should be focusing about, or things that I personally had to work on, and how I came about what I use personally. And I think in sharing that, you have an idea of what you need to go and do. So no two of us will be trading the same thing. All right, we won't be trading exactly the same way. We might be trading the same strategy, but differences when it comes to how we manage money, our risk tolerance, our psychology, and all those things will come into play to create variations in the actual results that we get. All right. So the things that you probably need to consider when you are looking at um, this particular issue, you need to be looking at your average number of setups. So the average number of setups you will tend to get in a day, that you will tend to get in a month. You'll be looking at your win rate. You'll be looking at the drawdown limits that are set by the prop firm. The profit target is set by the prop firm. Then you're looking at the phase. So are you in the phase one, that's the challenge phase, or are you in the verification phase, or are you trading a live account? Then your current situation, the current situation now, this is going to be a bit different, because in this next one, we'll start talking about how to manage money and all that. The current situation is going to be different. So your current situation, we're talking about the account. So let's say you have 3 days to go, or you have 4 days to go, and you're a drawdown and all that. That's the current situation. So what's the current situation of your account? And then the last thing I feel is very, very important is your risk tolerance level. So I'll go on to explain each of these things and then suggest the things you could do to make it easier on yourself, or to come up with a good risk management plan. So the first one is the average number of setups. So towards the ending of last year, I had to really shake up my trading. And one of the things that happened, that I was reviewing my, results and all that, and I discovered that sometime in August, something happened that really changed uh, the way that really made me to think about this. So I was up, think about 6 or so% um, across all my rapid accounts then and all that, and just came into a week. I think we had 2 weeks, about 2 weeks, or let me say 1.5 weeks, to when I was supposed to get my payouts and all that. And of course, I was just riding on the fact that 6%. Well, let's just be trading, because that was my approach to it. Take all your setups, trade everything and all that. And we just got into this week, and in 1 week, I was down either 7% or 8%, but basically it wiped out all the profit I had made and took me to drawdown, and I ended up withdrawing nada from that particular month and all. And it was like, so all these things culminated in me sitting back to look at, okay, we need to look at a way to ensure that, certain things are contained. And that particular August, it was really terrible. I actually closed the month of August with about -4% or thereabouts. So that was from a 6% profit to -4. So I had a drawdown basically of about 10%. If you are looking at it that way. So the issue was, how do we ensure, or how do I ensure that such things don't happen? How do I control the money aspect of things? So I discovered that, okay, if you just allow this space to just go, mathematically, when you look at it, you plot all of it on Excel, you discover that all these pairs are making money, but I was still using accounts. And what I just discovered was you could make money for like 2-3 months. And then there just comes this period where, and what was really kicking me out was not the overall drawdown, it was usually the daily drawdown. The daily drawdown was always the thing that caused me to lose the account. I will lose. It won't be the overall drawdown. Eventually, the accounts, in fact, my control account, where all the trades were coming from, was relatively growing. Right, it was relatively doing well, but prop wise, I was not being very, very profitable and all that. So I needed to change up things. So the first thing I needed to ask myself was, okay, what was going on? I was trading so many pairs, some of them very correlated. So what do I mean? A particular period came, I had setups on AU, AJ, EJ, and forgotten the last one. And all of them went to go and hit stop loss back to back, almost the same day. So risking 1% per trade, and you hit stop loss 3, you hit it a second time, that's a 6%. You've basically violated the daily drawdown rule and all that. So I had to ask myself, okay, how do you begin to work on this? And so the first thing I needed to do was to look at cutting down. I knew I needed to cut down the number of pairs I was trading. So to get a handle on a number of setups I'll be taking in a day, because if I begin to say, okay, once I hit 3% drawdown in a day, I'm no longer going to trade. If I hit 2% drawdown in a day, what if I hit a loss on AU and AJ, and then EJ would have given me my profits, and then I'm no longer there to take the EJ, and then maybe the next time EJ will give me a setup, what the setup I will now be taking will now be a losing setup on EJ. So I needed to cut down the pairs I was trading in such a way that I will be able to take all the setups that present and yet not run the risk of violating the daily drawdown rule, which was my major albatross. So I looked at, okay, even going further, I was thinking about it that, okay, by the time you get to the point where, as every one of us surely has in mind, where you are trading big accounts, 200K, 500K, 1M, and all that, by the time you begin to trade on pairs that are not very liquid, you'll probably start running into problems of them filling. Now, when you're trading a 10K account, you're not worried about them filling your orders. But the more your account expands, you start getting to the place where you begin to worry about the filling of your orders and all that. So I just to myself say, okay, let's relax and trade the most liquid pairs we had in the market. I'm telling you how I arrived at the pairs I'm trading. And so when you get to the market, or when you just go, you can go and do a Google research on that. Basically, the most liquid pairs in the market are the USD pairs, EU being the most liquid. Then you have UJ, so you have EU, UJ, then you have GU, AU, and then followed by EG. All right, so you have EU, UJ, GU, AU, and then EG. So these are the five most liquid pairs in the market. They are the most traded pairs. That's the meaning. They are the most traded pairs, so they are the most liquid pairs in the market. So I looked at this. I now started off with I didn't actually start off with trading EG. I wanted to basically just trade the dollar and then trade it across EU, GU, UCAD, AU. And my idea was I don't want to be watching so many things because that's workability now. But I discovered that sometimes, um, when you're trading a vast array of assets and you don't really understand the correlation between this and this and this and this, how this one affects this, how this one affects this, it can also create problems. Now, instead of trying to go and understand that, I just decided to eliminate that problem completely by just trading the dollar. So if I'm trading the dollar, I know that all my concentration is on whatsoever thing that is happening to the dollar. So that was my own way of cutting down my own number of setups. So by the time I started doing my back tests, I was not back testing EU, GU. I back tested the dollar first to see, do I have a profitable strategy that can work on the dollar? Once I discovered that I have strategies that can work on the dollar, I now started, whenever I get the dollar set up, I go to EU, GU, UCAD, AU to see how it's played out. And I told us on Monday, I had almost a whole exercise book that I was doing that. So I'll take it, I'll take the dollar pairs. I had already written out every single time I had it set up on USD. And I now went back to go and start cross-checking it with each of these things. Every time I did a modification, I would go and run it again on USD manually. This thing wasn't, I didn't do it with EA because I wanted to see the characteristics. I wanted to see if I was going to be tweaking things, or what exactly were happening that maybe needed tweaking and all those things. So it was a manual back test of about 18 months of data. And I was just doing that to the one of USD, go and check it on. And I now discovered that, okay, EU and GU correlates a lot with UCAD, with dollar, whereas AU was costing me money. UCAD was the wildest. Sometimes it will just be the best. Maybe you have 2 months, it's been the best, and then the next 2 months is basically taking all the money he gave you before. So I just eliminated UCAD and I left EU, GU, AU. Now, the next thing I was looking out for was I wanted to see if I get a setup on the dollar, because you would think that, okay, I get a setup on the dollar, I would definitely get a setup on EU, GU, AU. It doesn't work. Sometimes you get a setup on the dollar and you don't have a setup on EU. Yes, even EU. Sometimes the dollar will be giving you a setup, and on EU itself, you won't even have a setup. And then you have a setup on GU and AU and all that. So I needed to do that each time a setup presented, because I wanted to know what would be the number of setups I'll be getting in a day. So I wanted to run that numbers because I wanted to bring my money management, the amount I'll be risking per trade will be determined by how many setups, how many potential setups I'm likely to have in a day. So that way I don't run the risk of blowing my account by violating the daily drawdown rule. Now, once I had gotten that, I discovered that, okay, I could be risking something like 0.5%. This is where I started from. If I reach 0.5% on EU, GU, AU, then I'll be risking a total of 1.5% per trade. And from my back test, I had already discovered that once you try to get in, maybe you're getting a particular direction and you try to sell the first time, try to sell the second time on a pair, and you are hitting a sell, forget about it. They're not going that direction that week. It was the result of my back test. I'm not saying that that is what it will be for your own strategy. I'm saying the result of my own back test. So once I was able to understand that, okay, the maximum I'm going to do this in a week is going to be twice. So the maximum that can happen in a day, or the worst that can happen in a day, is that I risk it twice. So the next thing was to look at how many times, or how many times that scenario occurred that I could be risking taking trades on EU, GU, AU, all of them goes to his stop loss. EU, GU, AU, all of them goes to his stop loss. I now discovered that I think it happened once in about 50 something or 60 something trades. Like it was very, very slight. So I told myself, I said, okay, no problem. If it happens like that, um, we know that it happened. I will basically lose the challenge account because that was what I was looking at, challenge, and live accounts have it again. So I'll be sure that on my live account, I don't have a worry about that. But on challenge account, if it happens, I could lose the account. So there was a possibility. I made room that 1 month out of every year, because the way I did it, it was supposed to be I collected my results on a monthly basis. So this is what January is giving me, this is what February is giving me, this is what March is giving me, and all that, which was what led me to knowing the months of the year when I'm most likely to make the most money, the months of the year where I should probably scale back or just have it prepare my mind psychologically that okay, these months are not going to be good. And if you are planning anything financial, you can, distribute it to those months where, or put it around those months where you know that it's usually good for your strategy and all that. So I could do that month by month. Know what January is likely going to give me, what February usually tends to do, and all that. So once I had all those things like that, it gave me something to work with going forward. So at some point, I just told myself, I said, okay, now you're risking, you want to raise 0.5%, 0.5%, and you're getting 1.5%. You're risking 1.5%. Now, if they go to go and hit your full TP, you get a setup, and all three are giving you setups, which was not very often. It was just like 40% of the time that all three will give you setups. Now, if all three gives you setup 1.5%, and you still go and hit your full TP, what will basically happen is I will get two times of whatever thing I'm risking back. So I'll risk 1.5% and I'm getting 3% back. I'm supposed to do 8%. So I told myself this is not going to work. So the question is, how do I get 8%? Because I'm basically seeing that every month, dollar is going to give me at most about 2 setups. 2 to 3 setups. That is what I'll be getting every month. That is what I get on the dollar every month. 2 to 3 setups every month. So the question was, how do I do 8% from that? Knowing full well that it's not every single time that it will still go and hit your footy. There is still times when it will go and hit your stop loss and all that. So by the time I finished collating it, I discovered that if I did that, I would have only passed 2 months out of 12 months in 2022, and I think twice again in 6 months in 2021. So I decided I needed to change up something. I'm sharing this so that as you are hearing, you just know, okay, this is what I need to be doing. So just be picking it out from like that, from what I'm talking about. Now, I looked at the fact that, okay, how do we now do this? What is my win rate like? So I've talked about average number of setups. I'm going to be bringing in the win rates. I've brought in the drawdown limits. I've brought in the profit targets. Now, how do I hit 8% with 2 to 3 setups on the dollar every month, getting back double, because that's what it is. I target 1R and 3R. So basically what you're getting is 2 times whatever thing you risk. You can go do that math later. So how do I do that? And from what my backtest suggested, that was the optimal thing to do. 1R, 3R, 1R, 3R, or to do 3R directly. But I knew that personally for me, I won't be able to do 3R directly. I will be out of it. I would not rest well. So let me just do my 1R, 3R jejely. So how do I work within that to get what I want? So it was at that point I looked at the data I had again, told myself, all right, AU is good, it looks interesting, because sometimes you won't get setups on EU and GU, and then you get it set up on AU. But I just discovered that a lot of times AU will move during Asia I will never come back down in London to pick my setups. And because of that, AU was becoming just, their result was average. So when on EU and GU, I was getting a win rate of close to 70-75%. On AU, I was just basically getting like 45%, 50% win rate. So I needed to drop AU. So I dropped AU. I said, okay, can we now raise, having dropped AU, can I now raise my profits, my risk per trade to 1%? So what it will mean is that if I get one setup on dollar and I'm trading it on EU and I have equivalent setups on EU and GU, then I'll be risking 1%, 1%, that is 2%. So if it happens that I hit stop loss the first time, 2%, I can take the trade again, 2%. And even if the two of them go together and hit stop loss, I will only be on -4. I won't have violated 5%. Now, if the 4%, if on the other hand, the 2% goes to go and hit my full profit target, I get 2% back, or rather I get 4% back. So if I can get two setups like that in a month, I would have hit 8%. So that was what was basically in my mind starting. But then I had to ask myself, okay, now when you look at, so if we try to now do this based on the data I had, remember I collated data month by month. So I now apply this. Okay, let me now look at what I had collected. If I do this and I'm trading EU and GU and I'm risking this like this, based on the results I have, tabulated results I have in front of me, let me now bring out what the profit will actually look at like month by month. By the time I did it again, I discovered that, okay, I had gone up from passing 2 in 12 months to passing about 4, 5 in 12 months. So the question was, am I satisfied with that? Okay, let me see, can I tweak that further now? Let me look at what the win rate was month by month. How many times, if I increase my risk to say 1.5%, 1.5% per trade, that's EU, GU. So I'll be risking 3% for each dollar setup if I'm giving the setup on both EU and GU. What would it look like? How many times do I run the risk of violating the account? All right. So how many times can I hit stop loss? How many times will I hit stop loss? Like twice in a day on both pairs. And I discovered that they were very few and far in between. All right. I think it was still like 1 month that would have still happened. So I just told myself, I just see, let's accept that 1 or 2 months in the year, because that's the way I framed it, that every month of the year, I will take a new challenge every month of the year. So I discovered that January was just horrible. Like January was a horrible month to do any challenging. Same with March. So I just, and then, January, March. So I made up my mind, January, March, I won't really be starting any challenge. But apart from that, every other month, start a new challenge. Every other month, make up your mind you're doing a challenge. So if I was going to do it that way, what will happen? So I don't know my mind. It's okay. Two times. Every time you go into this thing to trade, 2 months out of 12 months, you are going to lose the challenge. Just accept it. It's what it is. All right. And instead, let's concentrate on making sure that about 10%, 10 months or 9 months, you pass the challenge and then you get into the verification phase. Because I discovered that what my data was telling me, that was what was more feasible to work out. So I looked at that, and then I looked at a contingency plan. I looked at contingencies. So what do I mean by contingencies? So let's say for whatsoever reason or the other, dollar is not giving me the setups I want. How do I bridge it? So I was looking for something that could give me like 1% extra or 2% extra, something that not going to kill myself. So I was just thinking about it, and I was looking at trading an intraday strategy. I was looking at trading what was it called, and adding another pet to the mix and all that. So I had to play around with that for another 2-3 months until I discovered that EG was just going to be the perfect pair for that. So I added EG to make it 3. And the reason why I was able to add EG was that based on the data I collected, I discovered that EG setups, the setups on EG, almost never coincided with my setups on the dollar. So my setups on EG almost never, I think it was only one trade that coincided with a dollar trade. So I knew that I could trade EG conveniently with my dollar setups. So that was how I had to arrive at these are the number of setups I'll have. So I generally expect not to have more than about 6 trading opportunities every month. I don't expect to have up to 6 trading opportunities every month. And so what that does for me is that it makes me razor sharp, kind of, because I know that, okay, you're not going to get so many setups. You need to pay attention to your setups. You need to really settle down and pay attention to your setups because you're not going to be getting so many of them. But it's removed my worry about the drawdown limits. Then it gave me control over how to hit my profit target. So now my hitting my profit target is no longer I don't know how it will happen. No, I know how it will happen. How it will happen is that every month I expect to get $1 or $2 setups and 1 EG setup. So for this month, for instance, I have gotten my dollar setup. The dollar setup occurred on the first, I think the 1st or the 2nd of June. I think I talked about it in the group. I can't remember. I've gotten my dollar setup. And this week I've gotten my EG setup. So I have gotten the setups for this month. Any other thing they give me is Jara. And so I am not pushing myself, or I'm not so interested in doing something big again. I have gotten the main things, what I expect them to do. Now, the only other reasons why I'm still a bit hopeful is that it is June, and June, July, and November are the months where I eat. So trading the way I do, those are the months where I eat. The other months, they just contribute, but these are the months where I eat. So I'm saying, okay, they might still give something, they might not, and all that. So these things allow you to know, okay, this is how I'll be risking money, this is how I'll be allocating money, and all that. So you are no longer worried about over trading, because now you've been able to get a grasp of what is going to be happening in the market, not because somebody told you or you thought it out or whatever. It is what you backtested over a reasonable period of time. And you've seen that, okay, this is what tends to happen. Now, what if it doesn't happen that way and for whatever reason? Now you put a tie to it. For instance, when I'm trading, like I told you, that was how I backtested it. Hit stop loss twice, that is the end. If they like, let them move. Like today now that I said I'm not trading EU and they moved in my direction, it doesn't concern me. In my back test, I've seen many times like that. They will just come, FOMC like this, they will just come and take your stop loss. So I'm not worried. It doesn't shake anything in my body. Immediately they begin to move another thing. The next thing, I'm looking at the next kind of setup they can give me. They give it, if they bust the ATR, tomorrow is Thursday, I have a reversal strategy that I have that can be trading then. If they give me, fine. If they don't give me, fine. I'm not really expecting anything big again from them this month. They've done what they're supposed to do this month. One main setup on dollar, one setup on EG. That is it. So you need to find out what is the average number of setups that you will likely get trading the way you do on a daily basis trading the way you do on a monthly basis, you need to know your win rate, because this will enable you to know, okay, this is what my returns will be. All right. So I'm not going to be, there are so many things we discussed in your respective four stream programs. I'm not going to go back to talking about RRR, talking about position sizing and all that. We passed that level, we passed that stage. So the thing is, how do you handle combining your number of setups, combining your win rates, and then matching it to your drawdown limits and your profit targets? Now, once you've been able to do that, we now get into the places where the thing is what I will call discretionary, and that is the phase and the current situation. Now, when you are in phase one, you can decide to be more aggressive. So say, like me, you want to be risking 1.5% per trade. So for me, I risk that on the dollar pairs and 1% on EG. So basically what that means is if they give me one good setup on the dollar, that is 6%, one good setup on EG, that's 2%, 8%. For now, that's why for now I'm not taking FTMO. All my FTMO, there is it, and we'll talk about that when we get to the second slide. FTMO challenges I will be taking will be next year, June, July, or November. So those months that I've identified that they are the months where I get a lot of setups, a lot of good setups, that is when I can go and risk something that now wants to give me 10%. For now, 8%, one setup on USD, one setup on EG, and that is that. If for any reason I don't really get that, or I hit stop loss once, then it goes to TP, or I hit stop loss, whatever, we know how to adjust that and be going forward. Whether to get an extension, that's coming down to what we are looking at. So when you are trading your accounts, you need to know what are your best case scenarios. You need to know what your worst case scenarios are. Now, when you're trading your phase one account, the worst case scenario immediately is that you lose the account outrightly. All right. Now, once you move on from there, you move on to the place where you get a trial, all right, a free trial. You get another opportunity to try to pass it again. Then the next thing moving on is that you get the opportunity to get an extension. And then finally is that you're able to pass. So those are the four things you are looking at. Those are the four probabilities or the four possible outcomes that you could have. Just a moment. All right, so those are the four possible outcomes you could have. Now, if you are already in the worst possible outcome, that is, you are in drawdown, which means if the phase should end like that, you are going to lose money or you're going to lose the account. You have nothing less, you have nothing more to lose. The worst thing that can happen to you is that you will lose the account, right? So at that point, you are not going to stick to your normal risk management rules. So let's say you are 3% down now in your phase one. What is the worst thing that what's the worst thing that can happen to you in that scenario? You lose the account. All right. If I'm going to lose the account, being 3% down, I have 4 days to go, 3 days to go. What I do is I have, apart from my normal strategies, and this is one of the things I will encourage you to do, have a couple of strategies. Now, most of my strategies, I have 3 strategies that are weekly trades. 2 are trend following, 1 is counter trend. Those are in the current fostering program. I talked, or those who joined their class, I talked about the swing shots. I've talked about the fractal order flow. Now, the thing is that the two of them are almost always in sync. The two of them are almost always saying the same thing. Then, of course, I have for those again who joined that class, we have I thought it as part of swing shots, but it's actually a strategy on its own, which is the ATR bust, which is a reversal strategy. All these things are happening on the dollar. I'm not trading it elsewhere. It's happening on the same dollar. I'm not going to go and start looking for something else somewhere. And they're all based off high of the week, low of the week. Just different things. One is following the trend, the other one is counter trend. Once the weekly ATR has been taken, Thursdays and Fridays, we look for a reversal trade and all that. And then I have my intraday trades. Now, once I am in drawdown, 3 days to go, that is the time. There are two things I usually do. One is I look for all those trades. If I can't find it on the dollar, then I go look for my trend trades on any other pair. Normally what I trade is the dollar, but I am 3 days to go. If I stay here, sorry for those of you that are not Christians, but if you're a Christian, there is this story in the Bible about when God prophesied the children of Israel were suffering famine, they were under a siege, there was no food to eat. And then there were these lepers that were outside the city. And they said to themselves, why stay here till we die? If we go into the city, there is famine there. If we cross over to the camp of our enemies, the Syrians, he said, well, they might take us alive, they might spare our lives, or they might kill us. But if we stay here, we will die. So if you stay on minus 3% and the 3 days finishes, the one thing that is assured is that you will lose the account. Right? So, since you come and lose the account, don't put it at the back of your head. I have lost this account. If I save it, it's a miracle. I will go and do Thanksgiving somewhere. But I will do my best to save it. And let me tell you what I would do. If I was in your shoe, I would take something slightly smaller than the maximum daily loss. Right? And I will hit on it. Look for one good high of the week, low of the week setup, and I will hit on it. If it goes to hit SL, no problem. The account was already in drawdown. It was already lost. If it comes even close to TP1, it doesn't even need to get to 1 hour. If it comes close to it, it will already have taken me to break even. I close it. I will come back again. Now, this is for extraordinary situations. Now, if your own current situation, you are not in drawdown, you are in that place where you can get a free retry. So the only thing, what you now need to do is to avoid slipping from your position into a worst case scenario, but you will still put that same effort towards pushing to the next possible scenario, which is towards to get an extension. So let's say 3 days to go or thereabouts, you are. Now, the reason why I'm using 3 days to go is that I'm trading weekly trades. Weekly trades. If you are trading a intraday or you're trading a scalping strategy, in 3 days, you still see your normal setup. So you can still take, maybe you are someone that scalps, you can still see plenty setups in 3 days. For me, 3 days, the likelihood, in fact, some weeks, once I enter like this and I see Monday and Tuesday, I just know that, see, forget this week, no setup. Some weeks, once you see Monday, you just forget about setup this week. And you just go and relax. There is no setup. So, and you are in that kind of a week, and you're taking weekly trades, and you are 3% up. Maybe you're on FTMO that you need 5%. To guarantee your MFF extension, sometimes they will give you on 2% if your risk management has been good. But if you want to make sure that you don't leave it. In fact, one of the things you can do on MFF is immediately write them. 3 days to go, you are up like 3%. Write them that you want an extension. If they give you any story, thankfully MFF tends to reply early these days. If they give you any story of we are not going to do this one or whatever, just know that the ball is in your court. I will take 2.5% or 2% and look for any trade anywhere that fits my strategy. Remember, I'm not just going to go and pick a strategy I don't understand. It's my strategy. I will look for. So when maybe someone is saying, Prof, you said you don't need trade DXY, EU and GU and EG. How come you are looking at C5? How come you are looking at AJ and all those things? Those things are emergency things. They are things you just put in backup that, see, you could just be here in case I ever need to call on you, I can bring you out. I will risk 2% to try to get to the 5%, which will give me an extension. Now, if for any reason you are above 5%, maybe you are like 6%, 6.5% up, your extension is almost guaranteed to you. I will risk anything above 5% and try to pass outright. Because while you are waiting to say an extension will come, I will hit it. What if you enter into a month where even the 5% that you've already made is wiped out completely? I'm saying the way I approach it. So you need to look at your current situation and adjust your risk management to suit it. Then the final thing is, okay, I didn't talk about phases properly. Now, when you're in your phase 2, you have 60 days. So you might decide that, okay, I have enough time. Let me just relax. Instead of risking, say, 1.5% per trade, can I just risk 1%? It just takes me longer. Risk 1%, and all that. Remember, your profit target is lower. So if I'm risking 1%, what happens? If they now go to go and hit profits, I'm getting 2%, and if I get my AG set up, another 2%, that's 6%, I've passed the 5%. I'm done. I don't need to now risk the 1.5, and run the risk of, if all of them go to go and hit SL twice in a day, then I lose the account. All right, you're already in your verification stage, you've passed the 8% thing. What you are not targeting is 5%. So you can afford to scale down what you are risking. All right, from maybe 1.5% to that 1%, or from 1% to 0.5% or 0.75%, depending on your risk tolerance. So me, I have concluded in my mind, and I lost an account in May. Yeah, there was a particular that EU hit stop loss twice, and GU just came very close to it, but it was in fact, I didn't just pay attention to it. I should have scaled down on that particular account. It was my funded FX account, and the daily drawdown on my funded FX is not 5%, it is 4%. So that alone was sufficient to take that particular account or make me lose that particular account. But I've made up my mind that, see, in a particular year, you are going to lose 2 challenges, and you're probably going to pass like 6 or 7. And I'm fine with it. I am fine with it. I'm not struggling with it. I'm fine. Now, some other person might not be fine with it. For instance, I've noticed a particular guy among us who is always very fearful. Sorry for using you as an example, Mr. Cash. Mr. Cash is one of the most conservative traders I have ever come across, probably because of experience. So you need to weigh your risk tolerance and ask yourself, what am I willing to lose? But let me tell you, every one of us must come to that point where we understand that, say, especially when it comes to profits, see, do anything you want to do. Time will come, you will lose your accounts. It will happen. So you should just start preparing your mind for it, that, see, I am not going to pass every challenge I take. And I might not be able to keep all the accounts that I even pass and get and be fine with it. And be fine with it. All right. So those are the things that you really need to be paying attention to when you are doing your prop trading. Of course, like I mentioned before, I'm assuming that at this stage, we are not talking about position sizing. I took the extra effort of even creating a tool for us that, okay, don't go out of your chart, you're on your screen and you do all your risk calculations. You just put lines, draw line, take line to somewhere, and it is done. You specify the exact amount you want to risk, and it will risk exactly that amount, whether it is crypto, whether it is anything, it will risk exactly the amount you specify. So at this stage, we shouldn't be talking about all those. Are you risking? Are you position sizing properly? Are you trading 0.1 on EU, GU, GN, and all that? We shouldn't be talking about that part now. So what we've talked about, or what I've talked about, are the things I feel that with specific regard to prop trading, these are the things you should be watching out for. All right. Now, the next question that was asked, I'll take the questions on these two together, and we might just have to call it a night and continue with others some other time. Now, someone asked a question about how do you ensure that, let me see, how did he phrase that question again? Where's that? Here's. Okay, yeah. There's idea on how you split your profit so you can have a save up and still growing your account purchase with prop firms and getting other stuff with the income gotten from prop firms. So that's basically what, and I'm going to rush through this. So the first thing you need to consider is your goals. What are your goals? So you need to have clearly defined goals. These are the things I want to do, and this is the time around when I want to get it done. Now, what is your risk tolerance level? Why this is important? So at this point, see what we're talking about. Here, we are talking about mainly how to pass your challenge. All right, you're talking about how to pass the challenge and verification. That is most of the things we are talking about here. That is basically what we are talking about. Here, we are saying now you have passed. How do you now manage your trading, the income you're receiving, growing your portfolio, and all that? So first one is, what are your goals? Needs to be clearly defined. What is your risk tolerance? So my live account, I risk 1% per trade. I'm fine with that. Whatever that wants to happen should be happening. Now, one of the reasons why I'm able to do that is because all my accounts, like what I used to be before, are not being traded in exactly the same way. So I have an account that is a conservative account, and I trade at 0.5%, and I have a normal account where I trade at 1%. Because I use a copier, it's easy to do all those things. So you just trade one account and it copies into the other account based on the settings that I have already provided. So what is your risk tolerance? You need to define that. If in some cases you might just need to do what I just did, and that is to, if you have up to 2 accounts, then you can make one a conservative account, make one a normal account or an aggressive account and all that. Then you need to look at your current situation. So you need to have your basic expenses written out. This was in fact towards the end of last year, I took time. Once I stopped trading, because second week of December I stopped trading. At the end of that week, I stopped any form of trading activity, or after that week. So after then, the rest of those weeks, I had to sit down early January to do a lot of sitting down and planning. So basic expenses. You call your wife. For those of us that are married, sit down, write what we'll be needing in this house. What do we need in this house? And I hope there are no married men here that used to use the marriage thing, but I'll talk about it. That used to, you want to know every single thing that your wife is doing with money. You give her money for the house, and then you will start looking. Some people will even follow her to the market. Please just call her, ask her, see, write out all the things we are spending money on in the house. There's food and all those, normal house stuff that you have it written out. Your utility bills, gas, PHCN, water bills, security bills, dustbin, refuse disposal, and all those things. Write out all those things. This is what we spend in a month. Transport on average, what are you spending? Even if you have a car, how much am I spending on petrol? Have all those things written, have your basic expenses written out, and come to a point and say, okay, if I must live normal life in a month, this is what I'm going to be spending. Petrol for the house, for the gen. How much petrol am I buying? How much am I spending on petrol? Write it out. Have your basic expense. You are paying school fees. Write it out. There are 3 months in one term. So whatever school fees you are paying, you divide it by 3. Add it to your monthly expense. Your rent, divide it by 12. Add it to your monthly expenses. And then know that this is how much I need to survive in 1 month. So have your basic expenses written out. Your income sources, write all of them out. These are my income sources. This is how much this one is contributing at the moment. At the moment, not projected. At the moment, this is what they are contributing. Know this. Know your current situation. Because you might be at the level where all the money you are making, there's nothing like saving up anywhere. You must now ask yourself, out of these basic expenses, which one am I going to cut out? Or what other income source am I going to add to enable me to have the money to buy proper accounts? Because by the time you finish this, you might discover that your whole salary, you don't have money to buy proper accounts. So there's no point talking about all this one. Anything we are talking about here is just waste of time. So you need to look at these 2 things to define your current situation, to know what's next you need to do with regards to this. Then the next thing, you need to consider what are your average returns trading wise. Now, this needs to come from both your back-tested results, and then needs to come from your journals. Need to be updated from your journal on a continuing basis. So for this month so far, the way I do this is that I have a control account. So I trade my account from a Who Goes Way demo account. Now, that particular account tells me this is everything I'm trading. This is from this account. I just look at what have I gotten this month. So since the year started, I think it's currently at about 18 point something percent. Between February and now, it's around 18 points, so close to 20% on that thing. So that tells me, divided by about 5 months, and I'm looking at an average return of about 4% per month. All right, close to 4% per month. That is what my average return looks like. And that is consistent with my back-tested results. My back-tested result says I'm likely to have between 45% to 55% annual returns. So I am still playing within that range. So what is my average return supposed to look like? So that you can factor it in to your current situation as an income source. Now, so it's not, I have a 10K account. I don't even know. And then, or maybe you now think that, I've gotten 50K account. Oh boy, I don't have my money. Let's now go and buy Lamborghini. you might just, by the time you finish doing your calculation, 4% returns, and then I will get 75% or 80% of that. You just see that, okay, yes, money is coming, but understand. So then the next thing is your plowback period. You need to decide a plowback period. So one of the most effective ways, or the way I do it, is to consider it like a business and decide on an amount that you'll be plowing back. So if I make a profit, there is a percentage that is plowed back. That one is not under negotiation, regardless of any other thing that is happening. So let's say I'm making a profit of $1,000, right? And I decide I'm going to be plowing back 20%. So no matter any other thing that I want to do with money, 20% of that 1K, which is $200, goes back into expanding my portfolio. So whether I want to put it into my own personal account and be trading it, or to go and buy another proper account, but that amount of money goes back into the business. And then this plowback period gives you, this is the period of time that I'm going to be calculating my profits. So let's say, because of trading, you're not sure what will happen every month, even though you have an average return per month. Some months will be 2%, some months will be minus, some months will be plus 10, some months can be plus 8. So you need to have a period of time, so say maybe on a quarterly basis, that I will look at the profit generated in this quarter and determine how much is going back into the business. So one of the things I would just advise you to do as a prop trader, or as a trader in general, is to know that you are going to have windfalls and you're going to have shortfalls. You're going to have windfalls. That is when you make what we call abnormal profits. And then you have times where you make loss. So when you are making windfalls, the secret there is whatsoever thing that is above your average returns, you pack it. So let's say my average returns from my back test is 4%, and a month comes and I do 7%, 3% is packed. Just keep it. If you have something like maybe something like a fixed deposit, I did not say something that is relatively safe, that can just be adding something, or something that you can use that money to do that is relatively safe, like really, really safe. So more or less, whatever you want to call it, it's just safe. You can use it to do that, but just pack it. And then at the end of this period, you come back and ask yourself, okay, how much have I realized in this quarter? All right. And then you take out your plow back, you take out your seed from here. So by the time, let's say, maybe in this period, I discovered I did 5%, 4%, 3%, and then I come back to this period, I will just calculate 20% of the entire profit I made that period, and I'll remove it from here. From the excess, I'll just remove it. If for any reason I didn't make excess of that, just be yourself and still remove your plowback money. So that is one of the reasons why, like we discussed earlier, trading shouldn't be your only income source, so that you are not forced to rely on the money that is coming from trading. Then the next thing is windfalls. You need to determine how you will deal with windfalls. So if at the end of maybe say a quarter, or half a year, or a year, you now discover that, okay, I was going to do $10,000 this year, and then I ended up with 15,000. What are you going to do with 5,000? What are you going to do with that windfall? What will you do with that windfall? So you need to predetermine this ahead of time. All right. Then finally, you need to plan. I'm not going to show mine I'm not going to show mine, but this particular Excel sheet here is a plan that includes my proposed for growing my prop accounts, all my calculations on daily expenses, my proposal for growing my asset base over the next 10 years. All the expenses, car, land, anything I want to get over the next 10 years is captured here. Why 10 years? Anything. Most of the things I want to do for myself personally, I want to do it before my first child gets into secondary school. Because after that time, the burden of life starts making some things difficult to do. So you need to do something like that. You need to plan. You will need to do a whole lot of planning. That, okay, based on this, and after some of your plans, you might need to come back and rework all these things again. You might say, my goal was to do this. By the time you finish running through all these things and sit down with yourself, you might need to modify your goals. You might need to sit down with your wife or with yourself and tell yourself that, see, I'm going to cut out A, B, C, D, E to enable me build, to enable me afford D, E, F, G. I might need to go and get an extra income source. Because from what I am seeing here, this thing is not just going to work. Even though I've gotten a proper account, this thing is, except I want to just destroy that proper account, it's still not going to work. It will enable you to know when you can become a full-time trader. Because your basic expense, let me just give you small this thing now. At least I use Kuda. I used to use Piggyverse before, but now I just use my Kuda account. There is something called Pocket. If you go to the saving tab of your Kuda account, there's something called Pocket. Now, what I usually do is that I lock the expenses, the basic expenses, months ahead. I lock it down. I lock it down months ahead. So let's say we're in June now. July is locked. Now, apart from my basic expenses, let me just tell you how this thing works. Once money comes in, there are two tabs that first gets resolved. In fact, I don't consider applying back as part of that because it's in the business. From the business, I pay myself a salary. Yes, that is the way I operate this thing. So from the business, I pay myself a salary. The business is trading and everything related. There are two companies I have. One, everything. So some of you would have just seen license to L Divine or whatever. That's a company. So everything trading and trading related will be under there. I pay myself a salary from there. So what it does is all this plowing back and all those things is company business. Now, once I've been paid, my basic expenses, before I start talking about even basic expenses, givings. My givings is a particular percentage of my income. It is removed. My savings is a percentage of that income. It is removed. Then we talk about basic expenses, and I'll now see what remains. What remains is what determines projects I can embark on. So I want to get a car. I want to get a washing machine. I want to go on vacation. It is from whatever thing that remains after my givings have been taken care of, my savings have been taken care of, my basic expenses have been taken care of. Whatever thing that is remaining, I'll now start thinking, okay, what do I now do with this one, this month or this quarter? So as we are now, and in fact, one of the ways to do it, Anyway, it's not. We'll discuss that another time. But these are some of the things that you can do, so that way it is systemic. It gives you clarity about what you are doing, and it gives you motivation to wake up every morning. So when we say go and learn a skill, some of us are reluctant to go and learn a skill because you've not done this. If you do this properly and discover that at the moment my income sources is not able to really meet up, then you need to work on this. So some of us are trying to work on trading simply because our income sources is faulty. And trading alone at the beginning, except you really have, if you have that kind of huge capital, it shouldn't be a problem. All right, your income sources, of course, will not be a problem. But if your income sources is dealt with, you can relax to build this up easily, or at least with more ease. So you need to work on using other income sources to cater to this, so that your trading can grow, can have room to grow. Now, when your trading is growing, all these things will now help you to know how to grow your portfolio. So I think we'll have to stop here this night, because I'll still want to open the floor for questions for Bishop to contribute. We'll do our reviews quickly on Friday so that we can dive into workability, and probably sometime next week we'll also look at, I'm not sure whether we'll be able to look at it on Friday, but we can look at it on Friday. That's, I think that there's a bit in Bishop Scott, the other opportunities that are available in trading. I think we've discussed some of them before, or we can just go over some. And of course, if you feel there are ones that you want, like Mr. Sonia mentioned one in the group, if you feel there are things, specific ones you want us to talk about, you can also mention them. So for now, we'll just open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, Bishop has disappeared. Okay, stay around. Just wondered that I was the host. So if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask, so that we can wrap this up. Any questions? Bishop, are you still with us? Okay, Paul, you were about asking something.
Yes. When you were explaining how you're able to get your information for the backtest, to make the backtest, getting information on monthly basis, to determine the month that will give you the expectations, and you're able to get all this. Like, how
I'm
long
struggling to hear you. Can you raise your voice a little bit, please?
I mean that. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, this is much clearer.
All right. So when you're talking about the back test, are you able to derive those information that you use to structure your trade plan and co? My question is, how long does it take you to be able to do the thorough back test? Because it seems to be a whole lot of work. It took like 12 hours back testing yesterday, and yes.
You said 10 hours.
12.
12 hours. 12 hours.
I couldn't even get
Okay, you've not started though.
1 week, 2 weeks.
12 hours. You've not started. See, when they start building Dangote refinery?
About many years ago now.
Okay. And that is Dangote with all his team of, and before they even started building, they would have spent at least years or months planning. See, if you want to get anything solid, it is best you go and take the time. See, there is when I switch or when I do my swing short trading or my fractal trading now and all that, um, for for like the first time in my trading career, I am I don't want to use the word careless, but I don't disturb myself about what any month is supposed to bring. I go into every month looking for just one setup on the dollar, one setup on EG. That is all I'm looking for every month. I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing at each point in time. I know what is likely going to be coming out. If it doesn't come out, fine and good. But I expect that every month. And after doing that, I have now gone back this year again to go and do 2021 complete to see that the data tallies. And then I am currently doing 2020. I'm almost done with 2020, and the data has stayed relatively the same. So it tells me that, relax yourself. So even with the whole COVID thing, by the time you go and look at it on the daily charts, you will still discover that all those crazy moves, all of them, those mad moves that they were doing during that COVID period, were largely in line with the order flow. They didn't do anything that was still crazy at the end of the day. So it just makes you relax. It makes you to know, okay, when any person is shouting, this one or that one or this one or that one, well, they should be doing whatever they want to do. That's their own. You are not worried I'm missing setups or I'm not missing setups. You're not worried about, will setups come this month? So see, take your time, do those things. You will learn some things from the market. There are some things that, some rules I created for myself that were from things that occurred. You will not see them in the whole of 2022. Is when you go to 2021, you will just see plenty of them. So take your time and do your back test. Settle down, do the back test, enjoy it. Now you said, oh, I now saw that many setups we are not coming to pick me and all that. That is when you now ask yourself, okay, should I go to a lower time frame? Should I just take it from there? So those are things that as you are doing your back tests, you'll be discovering and you will own it. It's not going to be what anybody taught you. Nobody thought I experimented. I'm using entry as 30 minutes. I experimented with 5 minutes. I experimented with 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour. I thought of trading on 4 hours, like the way I used to trade when I first started. So these are things. And then after the whole thing, so you just see what I'm just giving you an idea of what the back test would have looked like. You will back test 30 minutes, back test 1 hour, back test 15 minutes, back test 5 minutes. The same strategy. And you're doing this for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So in fact, because of that, I had to go and get a TradingView subscription for that period to enable me go back and see what is happening on the dollar futures. Because on IC markets, there is a limit to how much you can go back. So these are things that are important if we really want to do what we want to do and do it properly. All right, any other questions? So Bishop, Paul, I hope you are fine.
I'm fine. God will help me.
All right, Bishop, anything for us? Bishop has gone to sleep. All right.
So can I ask this? One of the questions. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. There is this experience that I have during my own back test. Though actually, to be honest, back testing is like God is revealing things to you in the market pertaining to one strategy. But there is this thing that I did. I actually want to, well, you said I'm conservative, and I believe I am, because gas goes is not easy. So when I did my back test then, so I think 2020, August, I failed because I did my back test around Profem rules. Like, I just want to see what is going to happen with Profem, and I use FTM as an example. So I discovered that in August 2020 or 2021 thereabout, it failed. So I concluded like that, and I beg, once in a year is okay. Though some months it's just going to be a retry, 2%, 5%, 10%. So just forget it. That there is no issue with that. But along the line, when I did some addition and subtraction, I discovered that even if I do something that is going to probably help me. So I went back and have a rule that, okay, when you have this drawdown, you can reduce your percentage, your risk percentage. So, and I did that. The month that I thought I lost the account. So eventually it was like I didn't, but I have to struggle with the account for 2 months. So my question now is, do you think that is being too careful, or because what I thought about that, why I did that was that if in my back test, back test is not always the same thing, always 100% equals to what we're going to experience in real market. So if I can work on having no drawdown or whatsoever, no issue when I in my backtest results. So if at all anything is going to happen in real life market, I think it should be minimal. Unlike, you're already seeing some hiccups in the result, and then it's not going to be better in the real life scenario. So do you think I'm too much conservative doing that, or do you think is still a good approach that, you are trying, one is trying to narrow down what is happening in the back test, so that in real life scenario it's not going to be like that. If it gets worse, at least it's going to be minimal. So that's what I want to ask. Thank you, sir.
What I would say is this: sometimes when we go to do our back tests and we begin to create rules, sometimes we create rules that are too rigid, too tailored towards the particular scenario we are seeing at that particular point in time. And that is why, because basically, since I started trading, almost every strategy I've traded were strategies I created. I have always been creating my own strategies right from time. And anytime I go and start using another people's strategy, it's always a bloodbath. So one of the issues I had to stop myself from doing was seeing that a lot of times I create I look at what has been going on, maybe say in the last 6 months, 9 months, and I just create rules around them. Sometimes in our bid to avoid losing, that's thing that Mark Douglas talks about. In our bid to avoid losing, we'll go and add another rule that will go and take out money from somewhere. So I start creating a rules. I start having a, I call it a template for adding on rules. So whenever I look at, I start from basics. So there are some basics in my strategies, and that is weekly high lows, taking off previous days highs and lows, trend. So these ones are constant key. like nothing will shake them. So if I am trading, that is why no matter what anybody says about AQC from now to tomorrow, I'm not going to trade it. It's not the way I trade. It's not the way I see the market. It doesn't mean it's not profitable. But once I begin to trade it, it begins to affect my mind when it comes to my main strategies. So I'm always looking for, they need to take out something. When they take out something and give me a discount or a premium to buy or to sell. So now, once I've created that basic rule, anything I want to add on top of it must be something that increases my profit significantly. It's not that it stops me from losing. It must increase my profits significantly. Now you can make it in percentage terms, maybe increasing my profit by 10% or whatsoever in a year or whatever. Now, but it must increase your profit significantly. Why? Sometimes something will stop you from making loss in a month, but it will take away profit from you in another 2 months. So that is one of the reasons why you need to have a large sample size to work with, to say, okay, I have checked this across when the market was trending. If you go and look at something like 2019, where the market was ranging, does the strategy work? If you look at 2020, where you had huge spikes, ups and downs, does the strategy work? And all that, so that you can also begin to understand the limitations of your strategy, so that you know when it will make money and when it will lose money. So for instance, that is where I came up with the rule that after the second week of December, I am not trading till the last week of January. Because I just discovered month after year, that period, the market just basically be dancing up and down. It doesn't go, there's no major trend. It just keeps, at least on USD pairs, it will just keep dancing up and down. It's not going anywhere. So there's no point coming to trade because I'm trading a trend continuation strategy. I want to follow the trend. I want the market to keep trending. And if the market is not going to be trending, what am I doing in the market? It's no point being in the market. Get out of the market. Go and do something else with your life. So you need to do that. Then you need to make sure that you are not trying to avoid loss and now take it away from good parts of your strategy. Then as you go along, you might see some things you did not pay attention to. And so you might feel, let me tweak this up a little bit. Now, in tweaking, sometimes we don't watch out for, we look at, okay, in the last 3 months, this thing would have saved me money from my journal. But what of the 2 years back test you did? How would it have played out with those setups? Sometimes you go back to those setups and discover it has happened to me severally. I would just, while I was coming up with a lot of the strategies I trade, I'll just look at it and say, okay, let me now go back and go and check. And that is why up to today, I have that exercise book. In fact, that exercise book is almost always with me. Almost always with me. So once any idea just comes into my head and I'm thinking, oh, I can tweak this thing like this, I just immediately pick the exercise book, the final one that I'm working with at the moment. I start looking at the setups. I just start comparing it. It would have, this setup will not have, I wouldn't have been able to take this setup, and this setup gave me TP3. I wouldn't have been able to take this setup gave me TP3. It would have saved me from 2 loss and also removed 2 profitable trades from me. It's rubbish, Jerry. I beg you. So those are some of the things you need to be aware of. Then finally, regardless of anything you do, bad times will come where you will make losses. Like I told you, I've made up my mind. 2 months in the year, you are going to lose your challenge. Forget about it. Nothing that you want to do, you will lose it. And the strategy is still fine. So stop trying to run away from potential loss. Focus your mind on your balance sheet. That is what businesses do. So from time to time, businesses are going to have losses. Facebook made loss, Amazon made loss, Google has made loss, everybody has made loss. You will make loss. You are not bigger than them. You will make loss. So just settle your mind. And these are companies, they make loss in year. A whole year, they will make loss. A whole year. Google will finish doing their business and what they will come out with is loss. And we are complaining because 1 month or 1 quarter we are coming out with loss, not the whole year that you are coming out with loss. I'm still doing fine. You are doing better than Google. You are doing better than Facebook. Facebook ended last year with loss. So what are we saying? So just make sure you are not running away from that loss. And that is why we talk about having other income sources that money is coming from some other place and others. The more you can expand that one, the less reliant you will be on trading. The other thing that I suggested to us last year that you could do was to get something like a rapid account where from day one the money is coming, so that you have, if it's 2%, 3%, as small as it is, they're still tiding you over and all that. But get other things that are not even trading related, so that you can have income coming from all that, no matter how small it is, so that you are not depending on that. Your back test results, do your back test for information purposes. Don't be thinking about it's after you have finished doing the back tests. You have the data in your hand. What you are supposed to do with that data now is to use that data to create a risk manage. See, the real purpose of data, if I'm going to tell you now, the real purpose of data is more for this. Except that data tells you that the strategy doesn't work. If the strategy works, the main purpose for data is this. It's your risk and your money management. That is what that data is supposed to help you to do. So please just forget about the whatever experiences and all that. Or you could just tell yourself, let me tell you another thing you should know about August. I think I've mentioned it before. August is another month that ranges up and down for most pairs. So if your strategy fails in August, maybe you should leave the market in August and go and sell Akara. Just joking. Anyway, without any other question, I think we can call it a night.
Prof, good evening. Please, I'm still waiting for your response. So.
See, you see that thing where you send there, they fear me. Every time I don't download that, as I open it like this, I say I will do it later. But don't worry, I'll try and do it. I'll try and do it this week. I'll try and get back to you this week.
All right, thanks.
All right, let's have a good night. I can stop recording. Let's stop recording.